Welcome, my name is Stephen Marshall, I'm Head of Sales here at Chekin. Today I'll be giving you a quick run through the Chekin application, the Chekin dashboard, how we can configure our account, and essentially how we can start automating our guest registration and check-in process, allowing us to save time with those administrative tasks that can be quite tedious, and how essentially we can create more of a tech-friendly and secure online check-in for our guests to complete prior to arrival, thus saving you time and money. So to start, to give you a little bit of a background on check-in, we've been working in this market, this specific online check-in niche, for the last 5 years. We started in Spain and currently working worldwide in over 20 countries. That includes the main countries in Europe and the US. We also have a great presence in the Middle East as well. What we do is we work with hotels, property managers, and touristic accommodations, help them essentially digitize that traditional check-in method of gathering all guest data in person, signing contracts in person, ID collection, essentially everything to the cloud, digitize that and have the guests do this on their own accord prior to arrival. So when they do arrive, essentially, we can dedicate our time to their experience if we are there in person, and then if not, we can offer them remote access into these properties so they don't have to wait around for anyone to actually be there physically with them to allow them access into these types of properties. The way we do that is with some amazing integrations we have. We have integrations with property management systems to allow to automate that entire communication part with the guest. And we also have a lot of integrations with digital locking devices to allow remote access into those properties as well. So I'll be able to show you that. Perfect. So here we are. Welcome to the check-in dashboard. Now, when you create your account, after creating your account, this is the first area that you will see. During the account creation process, you will be asked if you use a PMS, a property management system. If you do use a property management system, you can select the one that you're currently with, that we have integrated. What that means is what we'll be able to do is directly import all of your properties and your bookings to the check-in dashboard. Essentially, after you configure your online check-in account, since we have all the property information and since we have all the new reservations automatically coming in, we will be able to then automate and start the check-in process without you having to manually do that one by one. Okay, if you have any questions with integrations, please just let us know so we can resolve them for you. We do have some one-way integrations, and then we do have some bi-directional integrations that allow you to push the information of the guest back to your PMS. So to give you a little bit of an idea of how we can actually configure an online check-in process, what we would do is we would select the property, should it already appear after the integration. If not, we can simply add a new property here on the right-hand side, and we can start configuring how we would like the platform to work on, depending on our requirements and our necessities. You would add the property information. Now you can select the country here. There are no limitations to the country. I will use United Kingdom as an example. I will call it just property 101. However, there are no limitations when it comes to where check-in can be used. We do have a lot of legal compliance features in countries where it is required. So in Spain, for example, in Italy and Portugal, in Austria, and some areas in Switzerland, we do have legal compliance. So we actually register the guests to the authorities because that's one of the main pain points that we solve. For legal compliance. And then in other countries where there is no legal compliance, we can still automate the rest of the procedure for you. So once we put in the property information, we can start selecting what we actually want our online check-in to provide. So that starts with our premium features. And once that's configured, we can simply activate the online check-in. We do have some things to go over here regarding ID verification, remote access, and essentially gathering all that information that we require from our guests before they arrive. It could be something very basic, from them filling out the form and signing a digital contract, a rental agreement, a terms and conditions agreement, and then offering them upsellings, to something a bit more advanced with ID verification to confirm that the guest is who they say they are. That gives you a lot more security if you are going to be offering remote access into these properties. And also we can then integrate into the remote accessing devices that you use to then be able to provide that access code, those virtual keys to your guests without having to do anything. So ID verification would be one of the main features. Now, there's two ways we can do this. We can actually ask them to provide an image of their official document. So that can be a driver's license, depending on the legality of the country, passport or identity card. What we do is we detect the format if it has an MRZ code so that we know that they're taking a legitimate photo, and then you would have this information. Or we can also ask them to add a selfie to that. What that means is we'll extract the image of the guest from the passport or the ID. We will compare that biometrically with the selfie to be able to guarantee that the guest is who they say they are, and we can actually ask that for the guest leader or all guests. So this is entirely up to you if you would like this function. If it's activated, it will automatically appear during the check-in process. If it's deactivated, it won't. We then move over to remote access. Now, this is really interesting, remote access, because if we do have a lot of properties or it's just a pain having to create those codes and then send them out manually to the guest, we take care of that entire process for you. You can add an account and select one of the multiple providers that we have integrated. And then you would simply select and link each door to that property, or if case it's a hotel, you would link each accessing device or locking device to each room, so specific reservations will only receive the required virtual keys. What we do in this process is we detect the new information for each reservation, check-in dates, check-out dates, and we automatically create the virtual key or code for you from a specific check-in date to a specific checkout date and a specific time for each as well. What that means is they will not have access to the property or to the room prior to that specific check-in time, and then after checkout it will automatically be activated. And then of course we can decide on when we actually want to send that key to the guest. So for security purposes, if you'd only like to send the key to the guest perhaps after they've checked in or verified their identity, maybe you only want to send the keys after they've left a security deposit, we can do that as well. So that's how you'd set up initial configurations for here, and you would find the triggers. The template that we send, you can add additional instructions, but you also have the option to create a custom email as well. We have upselling, so offers and experiences, which I'll be able to go over shortly. Contracts. Now, contract is in their actual basic package. Now, it's a simple contract where you add information for the property on the left-hand side, and then we can add as many clauses as we wish to do so. Now, this can be a terms and conditions contract, it could be a rental agreement, house rules, hotels rules, anything that you feel that you need the guest to actually physically look at and sign, rather than just ticking a box saying I accept terms and conditions. This way you will have more of a legal document to be able to verify that the guest has actually read and accepts the clauses that you have provided. And then we move on to some payment options that we have. We do have tourist taxes, so depending on the country you're located in, we can actually calculate the tourist tax per guest. We use the reservation detail and the guest details, and then your criteria when activating the tourist taxes. So if there's a high season, low season, if there's different prices, percentages, and exemptions, we take all of that information and then we automatically calculate that and have the guest pay for it during the same online check-in. All payments at the moment are done via our Stripe integration, but we are working to add more payment gateways there. And then we do have booking payments and security deposits. Booking payments is you add a price and then the guest can pay for that reservation, or if you have any extra services that are included in the reservation cost, you can add that. It'll be the same. They go through the online check-in process and the payment gateway does appear. And then we do have security deposits. Should you wish to charge your guest a deposit prior to arrival, we can retain the money, and then if everything is okay, we simply release the funds. If not, then you can of course charge a percentage of the full security deposit should there be any complications or any damages that you need to report for. If we don't actually have an iCal integration, what we can actually do is, if we don't actually have a property management integration, what we can do is we can add an iCal connection. So an iCal connection, if you're not familiar, is simply a link to your calendar. We can import all of the reservations based on the property they're staying in and the check-in and check-out date. And then from there, you can manually work the online check-in for your guest. So that's a brief overview of the configuration on how to use your check-in account. As I said, once everything has been configured and saved, once we start importing all of those reservations, the automation begins, and then from the reservation confirmation until they have checked in, we do that entire communication process for you. So to give you a little bit of an idea of what that looks like from the guest perspective, we can see our bookings that have been imported from our bookings page. Now you will see the property name of the booking, the guest leader name, the check-in date, the number of guests to register, so whether that be the main guest or all guests, and then the booking status. Unless all guests have checked in, it will appear as uncompleted, or as you can see here, it has been completed because the guest has checked in. Now, if we don't have an iCal or PMS integration, we can simply create a new booking here by selecting the property we'd like to use. So in this case, I can use an example of Barcelona. We add the check-in and check-out date and the number of guests to register. I do have a security deposit amount activated on here. And here we would add the email of the guest to be able to send them to them directly. And then we would simply save the booking. After saving the booking, you will find a full summary of this booking status that is actually updated in real time. So whenever a guest does register in real time, this will update. Security deposit, if paid, will appear as confirmed. The self-check-in and ID verification as well. And the guest information will appear here. Now, there are two things that we can keep in mind at this moment in time. We can have the guest check in prior to arrival. We can also register the guest ourselves here. Should they have to visit us in our office or wherever we're located, we can simply scan their ID or their passport. All of their information will appear here. Or we also do provide a mobile application. With this mobile application, you can do all of the guest registrations in person. Rather than having fill out a form, you can simply scan their ID, all of their information will appear there, and they can provide a digital signature on this application, whether it's via mobile or tablet, and then the rest of the automation from that point will begin. If we scroll down, we will be able to see a summary of the communications we've sent. If we have upselling activated, we can see this here, and simply the booking information. So welcome to the online guest experience where the guest will be checking in. Now, for the guest to actually receive this, what happens is we detect the information and we send them an email saying, please check in. This email is a basic template, or you can create your own templates. It includes their check-in and check-out dates, the property name, and a big blue button that says, please check in now. This button takes them to our web app. So this web app is actually, everything is done online on a browser. They're not forced or needing to download any type of mobile or tablet application to check in. It can be done from any device from the browser that they choose to use. Really good intuitive way, so they can use any type of device. They simply open it on their browser and they are ready to go. As you can see, I'm using my laptop, so you will see it from a laptop's perspective. If I actually went into developer tools in the browser I'm using, you will be able to then see, of course, how it looks on the mobile device. So this is where the guest starts their experience, and they select check-in now and then confirm their reservation dates. As we can see, you can see the dates, number of guests to check in, and then we can also add your logo here. We would confirm the details, and if we have it activated, they would go through the ID verification process. They would simply select their nationality, so I will select mine here. They can upload a file or take an image with their webcam, and then select the type of document device they would use. They would take an image of their passport here. If it was an ID card, they'd have to take an image of the front and the back. And then what they would do is then they would provide a selfie. We would do an ID verification check and allow them to move on, and then provide you with all this information, plus the images of the ID verification check, whether it was negative or successful. After this, they would go on to the signature and data fields. Now, this form is actually completely customizable. Depending on the information that you require from your guests, you can add as many custom questions or remove as many questions as you wish to do so. If I go into my check-in account and go into the settings in the top right hand corner, not only will you see you can add your logo, but in the online check-in section, you can add a custom form. Now, you can actually add a custom form for all properties, and should you have different types of properties that require different types of information from your guests, you can simply create more custom forms. So I'll use this form as an example. The name of the form isn't actually seen by the guest, so that's for your own internal use. And then I will create the form here. Now, on the right hand side, you will see a live preview of what this looks like. And it's a simple case of, if you find questions that you don't require, you can simply remove them. If, for example, you would like the email and phone number to be mandatory, we can add that there. Or we can start adding our custom fields. So we can add as many questions as we wish. They can respond in text, they can respond in a date or a time format, so estimated time of arrival, for example, or we can even add a file uploader should you require any further documentation. You would simply add as many questions and then select it from the drop-down list. So for example, PCR test. This is a file uploader, and we can see it's been added to our form on the right-hand side, and we can have it as optional or mandatory. And then we would simply select the property we'd like that form to be a part of. So what the guest will do, depending on the questions you ask, they will fill out this form. And it's good to say that, and it's good to mention that the information that your guest list does provide, we will store on our system for a minimum of 5 years. So for whatever reason, should you need to access this information, you will always be able to. For every guest that just check in, we also do create an entry form or a registration slip. What that means is for every property that you have with Chekin, you will be able to download a guest book to see all of the guests that have stayed in your property during a certain amount of time. If we do have a contract activated here, they will be able to view and accept the contract and then simply add a digital signature to this here. And then they would complete one of the registrations. Now, if we don't have any payment processes afterwards, that would be the registration complete. We can ask them to move over to a second guest if it's not only the main guest that has to check in, or we can then ask them to move over to offers, experiences, and upsellings. If we do have a two-way integration with the PMS you're working with, what that means is the information that the guest has provided, the main information such as document type, number, full name, email, phone number, that will also get pushed back to your property management system. In this case, I do have a security deposit activated via our Stripe platform. They'll be able to pay the security deposit and then hold it. If they would like to know more information on how this works, they can see the information page here. And then that's one of the main guests checked in. You have the entry slip. If you are in a country where legal compliance is required, we will take care of that administrative task for you, and then you will be able to access all of the information. If we have it activated, we can now move over to experiences and upsellings. So essentially experiences and upsellings, we do have a great ebook on a webpage if you'd like to read it. It helps you build revenue upon each booking. And after a lot of studies done, the best time to actually sell any types of services or experiences, tours, trips that you would like to provide to your guests is prior to check-in, so they know that when they do arrive, everything has been taken care of. So that's what we offer here. If you would like to offer things such as an early check-in, a late checkout, maybe a flamenco night, something you haven't experienced within the city you're working in, or even just a welcome pack for a property that you would like to fill their fridge, you can do so via check-in. The guests would be able to see the different types of options. You would be able to add more information, different types of quantities for many, if it's per person, if it's per day, and then add full description of the services that you require. And that's where they'll be able to add the upselling experience. Just to keep in mind, I didn't mention it at the beginning, but I can now. We do currently work with 12 different languages. So what we do is we detect the language on the browser or the mobile device of the guest, and we will automatically adapt it to them. After the guest has checked in, what we can then do is we can go back to our booking status, and then we will be able to see which property has been checked in or not. We'll be able to see the information that they have provided, and whether they have added the security deposit. In this case, I left it as optional. You can also have that as mandatory, and then you can have the self-check-in ID verification step as mandatory as well. And then in documents, you will be able to see the entry forms that have been created, and then of course the contract. I'll give you a quick example of what the contract looks like now. Here's just a quick basic example. We can add your logo, the terms and conditions, any type of title you wish to use. We'll add more property details if you wish. You can add the full guest data. So whenever the guest does check in, we extract the information and add this directly to the contract for you with the reservation data, with your signature and the guest signature that they have confirmed they have read and accepted the contract. And then of course, all of your additional terms and clauses you would like to provide. After you're ready to get set up, after you've configured your property and saved it, once the reservations start coming in, we will automatically start connecting the guest, and then the entire online check-in process will be completed. Essentially, the goal here is for the guest to arrive having completed everything beforehand from the comfort of their own home, and that will allow you to save time and money in the process, and also really dedicate the time that you need to be able to improve the guest experience and concentrate everything on them so they can, of course, become repeat customers, increase direct bookings, and then you'll have all this information from all the guests that have checked in within your CRM. And with that information, you can then, of course, use it for custom communications, marketing purposes, everything to really help you build confidence and, of course, communication, reputation with your guests from there.